So this is feedback, constructive feedback for the event, for the London Marathon. These are the things that stood out in my mind as things that didn't go quite as well as they could have done or have done in previous years. And this comes with absolute full respect for the organisers and the event itself. It's obviously been tremendously difficult with the pandemic. So to get the event going again, 40 odd thousand runners in central London, absolutely hats off to everybody involved. But yeah, this is just very constructive feedback coming from a place of absolute respect. The big change this year prior to the event was they sent out the kit bag to your home address, which you then had to fill everything that you would need for after the race and then take it to the expo. The reason for this was to cut down on contacts on the morning, so you wouldn't have had to pass your bag to somebody, which you normally do at the start, and then it's there for you at the end. I thought that was quite counterintuitive in the fact that knowing what we know now about the disease, we know that it's much less virulent outside. It's much more virulent inside and on things like public transport. So if you really wanted to cut down on the number of contacts, rather than having 40,000 people going to the expo, plus whoever they brought with them, venturing across London, all across public transport, getting to the expo with obviously lots and lots of different contacts all indoors, and then again on Sunday having to get on public transport and go to the event, you could have just literally cut the first part of that out. You could have said, okay, for this year we won't have the expo, we'll send you your kit bag and your number, and then on the morning they still have the same protocols at the start where you hand your kit bag to one person. That seems to me to be something that could have been easily managed with it's outside, the people that take your kit generally aren't working on top of each other, so there's enough room for them to be certainly a metre or 2 metres apart, given the fact as well that the organiser encouraging less people to come, less people to support, which is fine. I totally get the situation. But say that you come from out of town, or you've come from Scotland or overseas or wherever, you didn't have anybody else there, and then having to go to the expo. Obviously a little later you go in the week, certainly towards the Saturday, I heard reports that Saturday was just swamped as it is. It's obviously a very, very busy event. For those people, it would just seem kind of unfair that you would have to, for example, I don't like running with my phone. I don't think many people do really like running with their phone. So if you were there on your own, you couldn't have left your phone with somebody or left any valuables with somebody. For the reasons that they were giving, it just seemed a bit counterintuitive. You could have just said, okay, well, we won't have the expo. So that's 40,000 people not having to go through London, not having to risk contracting COVID on public transport, then just having one less contact at the start where it's outside, where we know. I mean, just look at all the events that have taken place during the pandemics, like the Tour de France and tennis events where they've gone ahead and they've been pretty much okay. I'm not being naive here. We all know the expo is a money generator for the event and for people to go and sell their wares. This year, it just seemed a bit counterintuitive. I've run London once before in 2019. The biggest difference this year was the Abbott's World Marathon Majors Good for Age runners, which was incorporated into the event as a race within a race, a separate sort of championship. When I ran in 2019, I mean, it's London, it's busy, obviously, but the flow felt much, much better from a running point of view, a running perspective. It's obviously busy, there's people around you, but it felt like everybody was kind of running the same pace, in my category anyway. The first 5k, yes, you're jostling and trying to go through gaps, but after that, 10k, 15k, it felt like it settled down a little bit, and the flow kind of was very much established at that point. This year, there just seemed to be a lot of people just kind of out of position. It was just very busy all the time, really, and the amount of times that you had to go through people, and then there was another group of people I'm not saying they're blocking the road, they're obviously running their own race and everything else, but they were making it harder for people that were faster than them to get through them. There was a lot of trying to dart through gaps and go past people quite a long way into the race. It didn't really feel like it settled down really at all from that point of view. Again, this is not an easy thing to work out. Just as a comparison to 2019, there seems to be it was just a lot busier in my part of the race. And I was in wave 2. As we were going up to the start, for instance, I was chatting to somebody from who'd flown over from New York and was in wave 1. So he predicted time was 3:15, and I predicted 2:55. It just seemed that there were just quite a few people out of position. And I understand that this year has been very hard to get organised and run efficiently and safely and made sure that everybody's had a good experience. But as I say, this is just my feedback from the day. The London Marathon is still an amazing event, and I hope to run in many more. And it's one of those days where you just have these spine-tingling moments, if you like, and I really cherish the opportunity to run the London Marathon. So it's just constructive feedback and should be treated as such.